Prime Minister. The Liberal government cut ASIC funding by $120 million and ignored at least 41 warnings from ASIC that they need greater powers and resources. How can Australians possibly trust this Prime Minister to deal with high-profile financial scandals when his government has failed to stand up for victims of those scandals?
The Treasurer has the call.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the Prime Minister for the opportunity to respond to the member. The member opposite should particularly recall this, that in the economic statement released in 2013 before the last election, the Labor government announced an increase in the efficiency dividend for ASIC from 1.25% to 2.5%. That's a $38.2 million reduction in funding over the 4 years that was announced by the member opposite, Mr Speaker. But I also remember it was those opposite who opposed the implementation of a financial system inquiry when we were in opposition. The former Shadow Treasurer, then Treasurer, Shadow Treasurer at the time, tabled a terms of reference for that inquiry, which I tabled in this place yesterday. Those opposite yesterday were saying you can't work up a terms of reference in opposition, you have to wait till you get into government. Well, Mr Speaker, when we put forward a financial systems inquiry proposal, we tabled a terms of reference, Mr Speaker, something those opposite refused to do in terms of their proposal for a commission in this area, which has no definition. They just say Royal Commission and Bank in the same phrase, and they think that's a policy, Mr Speaker. What it is, Mr Speaker, is crass populism, as the member for Lilley reminded us all yesterday, Mr Speaker. I note the member for Lilley isn't here today, Mr Speaker, but, Mr Speaker, he referred to that type of politics is crass populism, Mr Speaker, and the Leader of the Opposition should reflect on that. But it was the financial systems inquiry that we put in place that made the following recommendations that have been adopted by the government. Product intervention power to enable ASIC to modify or ban harmful financial products. The power to ban individuals from managing a financial service business, the power to approve changes of licensee control, the power to consider a broader range of factors in determining whether an applicant satisfies the fit and proper purpose test to be granted a licence, and the power to impose conditions on firms to address concerns about internal systems relating to serious system misconduct, as well as, Mr Speaker, powers to increase penalties for those who offend in all of these areas and more, Mr Speaker. What we have from those opposite, Mr Speaker, is a proposal that doesn't address the concerns of Australians. What it does, Mr Speaker, is a proposal to delay any consideration of their concerns for years, Mr Speaker. The only interest that their proposal is seeking to protect is that of the Leader of the Opposition, Mr Speaker. That is the only interest it is seeking to serve. They are saying that they would rather invest $50 million, Mr Speaker, in a process that would make them wait years and years and years, Mr Speaker. And I note what the former Governor of the Reserve Bank and former Treasury Secretary Bernie Fraser said, Mr Speaker. He said, I think there are real problems, but he said, I wouldn't myself be rushing into a Royal Commission at this stage, mainly because I think the basic problems are pretty clear, but more importantly because it would take so long for a Royal Commission to get to the point of recommending. Mr Speaker, what they've got is hot air.